All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night book club. We are working through 13 and 14 of Atomic Habits. And I all of a sudden just second guessed myself. I'm like, it's 13 and 14, right? So yes, 13 and 14 of Atomic Habits. And this is my second time going through this book. I think that's why I'm getting the chapters confused. But I loved this book the first time, and I will probably read it again. Like, it's a good, I would say, like, January. We were just talking about this in our team huddle. I feel like fall is like another January where everyone's starting to, like, they want to get back into routines, they want to get back into healthy habits, they want, whatever. I feel like this is a January and a good back to school book. It takes like no time to read through it too. So I'll probably keep reading this because I get something new out of it every single time. Which I will say, 13 and 14, I thought it was kind of fitting that I would be leading these two chapters, because I don't think I even realized that I had put these into practice the last time that I read this. And one thing that I have had to realize with myself is that I have to have these boundaries on myself. So where he talks about, making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, that is like so me. And I thought it was me just kind of like catering to my laziness or my not willing to want to change or whatever. And I'm realizing, like, no, that is me setting myself up for success and just knowing myself well enough that I have to put boundaries on myself and put those in place so that I can make these habits inevitable or impossible, whichever one it is. And so, well, I feel like, I was talking to David on our way home from Michigan, and I said, I feel like I wouldn't recognize myself from a couple of years ago. And it's not because I've done anything drastic. It's not because I've done anything crazy, but it's just these tiny little things that I put into place to make myself more responsible, to, level up my emotional maturity or to level up my professionalism or whatever. I just feel like, and it's like I said, it's been nothing crazy. It's just been tiny little things I don't notice daily. But all of a sudden, I'm realizing that I don't even recognize myself from a couple of years ago. So I think these two chapters are so important. I love where he says the ritual is not the stretching. This is the first page of chapter 13. The ritual is not the stretching and weight training I put my body through each morning at the gym. The ritual is the cab. And I started to realize, like, looking back, I'm like, yep, I actually do that with myself a lot, where I'm like, I have a trainer now because I hate working out. I despise working out. I don't like it. I still don't like it, to be honest with you. But I got a trainer, and I pay her ahead of time every month, and we have a scheduled Zoom. And so she's even said, like, listen, if you can just make it, let's just log on to Zoom. Just plan to log on to Zoom when it's time for us to do our virtual training together. The rest is butter. I can walk you through that or whatever, but like, we can just log on to Zoom. You've made it, you've shown up. And so that has like been in my head a lot, where I'm like, okay, if I can just log on to Zoom, I'm good. And the next thing I know, I've done a whole workout and I feel great the rest of the day. So that's kind of what that reminded me of. Is you just have to like find whatever that first step is. Does anyone watch Friends? Of course, I have a Friends reference for you. When Chandler is getting married to Monica and Ross has to give him a couple little things. He's like, you don't have to get married today. All you have to do is just show up at the church. That's it. And then he shows up at the church. He's like, now you just have to put your steps on. That's it. That's all you're doing. And he gives him these tiny little steps to, like, get him to where he's like marrying Monica. But it's those tiny little things. Like, you don't even have to do a whole big massive change. All you need to do is just log into Zoom. You're in Zoom. Now let's just talk about your work. It's like it's working up into those bigger changes, and then over time you'll see that you've come a long way and have developed those habits out of that. Jamie, I'm glad I'm not the only crazy person in here. So then he talked about the 2-minute rule, and that kind of got me thinking about, like, what habit do I have that causes me to get work done? Because he says when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. And it's something that makes you basically sit down and do the thing, or go to do the thing that you were intending to do. What is that one thing that makes you do that? And so for me, I found that, I talked about this, I think, last week on book club, but like my office was upstairs and out of the way or whatever, and I never wanted to go upstairs. So I just brought my stuff down into the office down here, and it's a lot easier to make myself come and sit in the office. And to be very honest with you, a lot of times it's not with this big grand idea of like doing all the things, but I'm like, okay, I can at least go sit in my office. I'll at least be inspired. And next thing I know, I've been in here an hour and a half doing work. and didn't even, didn't even really think about it that much. But I made myself come in and sit in here instead of waiting for me to eventually open my phone on a couch or something. So coming to this spot is what is my 2-minute habit. Another one is, and this could be different for everybody, your 2-minute habit, keep in mind, is not going to match someone else's. So a 2-minute habit for me, another one is opening my back office. That's inspiring to me because it helps me to see my numbers and where they're at and what I need to do and where I can work through and whatever. And yes, we should all do that. But I know some people, if that's how they start their day, they're immediately discouraged, they shut down, they don't know where to go, they're overwhelmed. So find whatever 2-minute habit works for you to get your day started. Find that and just come with the intention of just doing that each day. Okay, I'm going to sit at my desk and I'm going to open up my back office, or I'm going to sit at my desk and I've got these Ed Mylett podcasts that I love. I'm just going to listen to the next one and just, get inspired by it, or whatever that is. Just find something that is going to keep you into a groove every single day. And another way I think to put these into motion, Emily and I have talked about this a lot, is, do your life-giving tasks first. And maybe that needs to be your 2-minute habit thing, or your whatever, like whatever's going to get you into work mode. Find those ones that are life-giving and do those first. Because if you go into your work feeling like you've been encouraged and uplifted and you have a positive attitude and a positive mood going into it, then do those things first. Okay, so for me, I love, chatting with my team. So I'll start my day with a couple coaching calls, and then I'm motivated and excited to do the rest of my steps. So that works for me. I know some people love posting and they love reels and they love content, and that's life-giving to them. So they start their day there, and then they feel like they can keep going with the rest of it. So a good way for you to recognize what your life-giving habit, or what your 2-minute habit is to find something that's life-giving and start your day with that one thing. And like I said, it'll create an excitement for you to come and sit down to work. And then once you're there, more than not, it will encourage you and motivate you to keep going. So I wanted to see what Leah said, because it looks like it's a little bit. So Leah, I get my hardest stuff done first. Everyone's different for sure. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So her habits are different than mine. So she's got to get her hard stuff out of the way. For me, I'm like, man, I need to do something that's inspiring and encouraging, and then I can do the hard stuff. So keep in mind, you have to find what works for you. Don't just listen to an influencer or whatever, whatever they say, that's what you're going to try to do. Find what works for you specifically, because everybody is different. Everybody's encouraged differently. Another one for me is coaching calls. If I had to schedule coaching calls, we talked about this on Book Club last week too. If I had to schedule them every week, that would never get, it would be exhausting trying to track people down. And there's a lot of times where, I'm going to be honest with you, sorry, this is vulnerable. It's like, I'm not in the mood for coaching calls, because I've either had a rough day, or maybe I'm not feeling 100% or whatever. But here's the thing, my 2-minute habit, I've sent my Zoom link to my entire team for the day for our one-on-one coaching. I've already sent that link. They're going to be showing up. It's what kind of forces me to get into the mode and do those coaching calls. So that's another thing. If you are, and I feel like that kind of goes with the inevitable and impossible tasks too. You kind of put yourself in the ringer, nope, I've set myself up already. I've set these appointments. I've already sent the Zoom link. If I've already done that, it's going to make me show up and not cancel on people, or not move around or whatever. So there's a few ways that you can kind of incorporate some things into your everyday routine that will help you stay on task, stay connected to your team, stay connected to your work, and they don't have to be big, huge things. I love where he talks about a habit must be established before it can be improved. And I feel like that puts words to what I've been saying about myself for a while. I'm trying very, very, very hard to be somebody that is getting up just a little bit earlier every morning. And so I'm not going to go crazy. I'm going to be up at 6:30 and I'm going to get a workout in and I'm going to have my quiet time. And I'm like, no, if I can just get up 10 minutes before my kids and just breathe and brush my hair before they get up, I'm going to count that as good. I'm just going to start the habit of getting up early before I start trying to perfect it. So maybe down the road, I'll be that girl that's that mom that's up and I've had my quiet time and I've, my makeup's done and I've got breakfast on the table. But for right now, I'm okay being the mom that's I barely brushed my hair. I got makeup down my face. Here's a Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwich. We'll get there, kids, one day. So, and slowly you will find yourself getting there. And I've seen this evidence so much in my last couple of years. It's starting those things slowly and starting to dig in a little bit to where it eventually becomes a habit that you want to create. So work on establishing a habit. Like you talked about, if you want to start being somebody that I'm going to go for a walk. You don't have to do a 5-mile walk every night. Walk to the stop sign and back. Just show up a little bit, whatever you have to do. That makes all the difference right there. Make it easy to start and the rest will follow. I mean, how many times do you sit down, even like with your quiet time or a book or whatever, that if you're not in the mood to do, but once you get started, next thing you know, you've done 5 chapters when you meant to do a page because it just grabbed your interest and now you're here. I mean, there's a reason they say the hardest part is getting started, right? I feel like a lot of times that's what helps us, or that's what makes us procrastinate and not get a lot of stuff until the end of the month. Okay, real talk is we aren't feeling motivated because we still have this whole entire month. So there's no reason for me to have to sit down and do anything and not be consistent or whatever. But if we have little things that make us show up every single day, I think you'll hit the end of the month not feeling so stressed out because you were inconsistent. You might hit the end of the month and find that you've got a really good thing going, and now it's just wrapping up with a couple things. You can actually breathe at the end of the month instead of it being this crazy, chaotic thing. I actually remember Rhonda did a team call on this where she talked about how she got so tired of the end of the month scramble that she started doing just a little bit every single day. And the next thing she knew, the end of the month actually had way more points and they were looking much better. And she was actually growing as a result of it. And I remember her saying something like, I almost feel like I was doing less work, but my points were growing and my work was more efficient. I was actually going further than, if I would have just done the end of the month scramble. So I don't know. I love these chapters. I think they're kind of, I could talk on them together. I think they're kind of one and the same. Did anyone have, I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, I have to talk for 15 minutes to start this. And I'm like, oh, it's been 17. I went really fast. Okay. So you know me, I like to talk. So anyways, who else has some thoughts on these 2 chapters?
Well, one thing that I started, which just to give another example that has been helping me too. So they talk about those 2-minute things. And when I've habit stacked, getting out of bed and, making my bed, and then I have my drink and devotions, and then I do workout before I eat and stuff. So that's been going very, very well. But then adding on like this 2-minute thing of before I leave my room in the morning, instead of just putting, whatever I wear for my comfies for the morning, pajamas or whatever, I put my workout clothes on. So before I even leave the room, I put my workout clothes on. And even just that, even though I work out a little after a couple more things that I do, it's still the act of doing that. I'm not going to miss because I'm already dressed for it. I'm already like, it makes the big difference. So I've added that into that routine of like that 2-minute thing. But what I love about that, what he talks about here is it kind of just frees up your mind from it frees more space up for what to focus on. Right. I feel like, I'm sure other people can relate, but I feel like for me, if I'm putting something off, or if there's something I know I should be doing, just that mental energy that takes up can be consuming, and it just feels draining. It feels like you're so busy or you have so much to do just because you're putting off a couple things that you could probably just get done. So just having that mental space freed up to feel like you can knock those things out and actually use that time to focus on what you need to focus on, right? Focus on the things that really need your full attention, where this stuff becomes the habits that you don't have to think about, that you've put into place. So, and he's talked about that too throughout here, but it kind of just reiterates that. And I think is, just crazy important. And like you said, Natalie, just starting off super small with some things, it seems not applicable to maybe the massive goals you have down the road, but it's just that, like he says, that gateway habit, because you still have those big goals. It's just the act of getting started. Right. So just, yeah, so much good stuff.
Yeah, for like time blocking is so important too. I know exactly what you mean with the mental energy. I've done that so many times where it's like you put off the thing in the morning and then you spend all day thinking about it and doing about it. At the end of the day, you're like exhausted. You're like, but I never even did anything. I just thought about it all day. I wish I'd have just done it in the first 10 minutes and gotten it over with. And then we don't learn, we do it all again the next day. So, but time blocking is important. And this is where these 2-minute habits can so come into play. I love that.
I loved on page 165. Um, kind of the middle towards the end of that page where he is talking about, oh, sorry, all these pages here. Where he's talking about casting votes for your new identity, and just if you're doing things for just 2 minutes, even just going to the gym 5 days a week, just go for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and you're developing that habit. And that was just crazy to me. And then what he said about we rarely think about change this way because everyone is consumed by the end goal. And I just thought about that as I was reading it, and how we're all consumed with, well, maybe, in our business, it's the next rank up or diamond, or, that end goal. And it's easy to forget that those little things is what is going to get us there over time, right? 1 minute of reading is better than never picking up a book. It's better to do less than you hoped than to do nothing at all. And I thought about that, like even with IPA and posting every day, about Plexus on our socials, and just those little things just showing up. And that's going to help us reach that end goal. So just to focus on those little things every day and not giving up. I don't know. I just thought that was pretty powerful.
I love that line too about casting votes for your identity. That was so good. That spoke to me on such a level, because I mean, if you identify as someone who shows up, like you said, to the gym 5 days a week, even if it is for 5 minutes, like I do, I go to the gym 5 days a week. I mean, I don't, but I'm just saying for that person, so it's like, if you are that person, that's your identity, then you start to walk in that identity a little bit more, and you start to feel a little bit more empowered and have more ownership in this decision. So I love that. It's good. So in chapter 14, it talks about making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. And I love this because I didn't realize how many commitment devices I put in place in my life. And so I started thinking about different examples. And so a couple of my examples, and I want to hear some of yours, is my phone. I deleted, this was over a year ago, I deleted all the games off my phone. And the only time they go back on my phone is if I'm getting on an airplane. I'll quick download them again, like in the airport. I'll play them on the airplane, and then they come off my phone when I land again. Like, I just don't have games on my phone, because if they're there, I will play them. I will lay in bed and I'll mindlessly play them. They will either cost me sleep or work time or whatever. Same thing with my phone. At the end of the night, I just started putting it into my bathroom at the end of the night. It's not even a thing. Otherwise, again, I will be on it all night. So my commitment device is keeping my phone strictly like game free and put away at the end of the night. Another one is I always eat before I go grocery shopping because I will buy really unhealthy stuff, and I'll buy way too much if I'm starving. And so I will always eat before I go grocery shopping. And I'm like, that's a commitment device I put in place so that I'm not overindulging when I'm grocery shopping, and it helps me make healthier decisions. And then another one is when I'm out for dinner. I started this, Jessica Simpson said this was her little hack a few years ago. And if you know me, I have a weird girl crush on Jessica Simpson, but she talked about how she always orders a salad before her meal, and she makes sure that she finishes that salad. She's never like, oh, I'm starting to get full, I want to make sure I stay room. She's like, no, I finished that salad. And then if I am too full when my dinner comes, I'll just pack it up, and I've got dinner the next day. And now I've done a dinner of just salad. And so she's like, that's something I've kind of committed to, and it's really helped. And I've realized I've done that a lot. And there's a lot of times where I have a dinner of just salad, and then I still have dinner the next day. So it's saving money and a whole meal of just a really healthy choice. So another commitment device I've kind of put in place. What commitment devices do you all have? Want to hear that?
I'm with you now. I do the eat food before grocery shopping because I was doing the same thing. It was really bad. And then I see all these, like Oreos and stuff in my pantry, and I'm like, why did I buy that? But in addition to that, I've noticed that like I tend to give my daughter like the healthier choice first when she's eating. And so I started doing that for myself. So if I'm like cutting bell peppers for her, we eat that first, and then we eat, whatever else it is. Like if she's like, oh, can I have chips? And I'm like, oh, well, let's eat this first. And it's become a good habit for me because now I'm not eating junk either. So it's a nice little thing for both of us, teaching good habits.
Yeah, it's a good one. Because then chances are you're told that bell pepper is not going to eat the chips. And if you do, it's only a couple. It's a good one.
I know for me, I'm pretty excited to introduce some of the sleep habits that he talks about in that chapter of just like the handful of things that you could, if you would make some of those shifts in a year from now, you would probably be unrecognizable. And I really think that I need to give myself a little bit more credit and give myself a nicer mattress because we spend half our life there. So
true.
yes, I don't understand why we tend to like ignore that, but I don't know, maybe other people don't, but I do. And I should probably get a new mattress.
Seriously. I think half of us don't realize how bad our mattresses are until we get a new one.
Mm-hmm. Actually sleeping at convention, that mattress was in our room was so incredible. I slept the best I've slept at convention, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
hint to myself.
Yep. Love that.
So I finally started putting my phone away at night, like putting it in another room, which was really hard for me to do. But because I was attached to it for my alarm, which is so dumb, you guys, because like we all have alarm clocks, right? But I got the sunrise alarm clock and it's amazing. I love it. It wakes me up with the sun. So it's way better than any other alarm ever on the face of the planet. And the other thing I did, I think Jane was talking about this the other day. She's talking about turning notifications off of stuff. And I was like, oh, I have all my notifications off. I don't have any of that. And then I realized like, yes, I didn't have the little red bubbles popping up anymore, but I had the banners. So constantly all day long, I was hearing the buzz and the banners, and it literally like my mind, you can't turn it off. It's like, you're so distracted all day long. And so I shut those off, and like within a day or so, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I can focus. So just like little things like that you don't think of.
For real. Those notifications are real. Those alarm clocks too, like I think I didn't buy alarm clocks for a long time. So like I hate the sound that the old fashioned alarm clocks make. I don't want to wake up to that, but most of them now make all of those pretty cell phone sounds. Like you can set them to do the birds or the piano or whatever. So they're not the same. They're really nice now. I have a real alarm clock with a big girl.
Mhm. I love mine because I can set it. I don't have to have noise. It just, the sun rises and I wake up naturally. Like I can, you like can see it through your eyelids, and I wake up and I'm like not grouchy, and it's amazing.
Love that. So good.
This
Yeah,
goes
your-
along sorry,
Go ahead.
Natalie. I was just saying this goes a little bit along with kind of what y'all were talking about and like the example you gave in the book. But my husband and I feel like we've turned into his parents because we always split meals almost every time we go out to eat now. And I remember them telling us that when we were young, and we were all like, okay, you're weird. And now here we are, and we do that because it saves money and you don't eat as much. So I feel like that's a simple one. And then along those same lines, like even just this morning, told my husband he always makes my coffee for me, which is really sweet. It's just one thing he does every morning, and he always brings me this massive cup of coffee. And I'm like, this morning, I finally was like, can you just bring me a tiny little cup? Like, I just really don't need that big cup. I don't want it to go cold and I don't need to drink that much and make myself jittery. So that was a new one that I put into place today.
Love that. Can you please not overindulge me? That'd be great.
Please.
So funny. I found even like in my quiet time when I'm trying to like really have a good quiet time, to try to do every day, but doesn't happen every day. But I've had to go and lock myself into my closet and turn everything off and have my phone put somewhere else. And I used the excuse for a long time, like, well, I need like all that to read my Bible. And I'm like, no, I have an old fashioned Bible that I can read out of. I don't need my phone. So I put that away. And then it was like, well, I need the light on to read my Bible. I'm like, no, when I'm ready to read my Bible, I will read my Bible. But for now, I'm going to shut all the lights off and be in the darkness so that I can actually listen to what the Lord has to say to me and I can focus and like concentrate instead of going, I haven't worn that shirt in 8 years. I should probably throw it out. Wow, this closet's really messy. It kind of smells in here. Do you like shoes? I should probably wash shoes, you know? So it kind of helps you like focus it in that way. I'm noticing a lot of these are like eliminating noise and distraction. We just have so much noise and distraction that like does so much and like seriously just derails us every single day. All right, does anyone have any thoughts on these? These are really good. I'm like gonna be using some of y'all's commitment devices. Some of y'all have some really good ones. I'm like, ooh, I'm implementing that. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, it is 9:02, so you can go ahead and wrap up. I would challenge y'all to find one, like identify one commitment device that you use that you don't even realize that you use this week and like share that with other people. And then also like find one commitment device to, you know, start implementing. That's what I'm looking for. Start implementing this week. Because I think it's going to make a huge difference in the long run. It might seem so silly, but in the long run, it's going to make a huge difference. And so, but yeah, implement one thing this week. And I would even like share that with your upline. One thing that you're going to implement this week, because a lot of times accountability is what leads to success. And so even if it's something like, hey, I'm going to wake up 5 minutes earlier this week. You know, I'm going to text you every day at this time or whatever it is, like find a way to keep accountable to those habits, because it takes 21 days to create a habit. And so the more that you can do that and stay consistent with it, the more it's going to grow and build. And now you're showing up in that area. And that's just one way to start leading toward the life that you want to live. So anyways, good talk tonight, guys. I love chatting with y'all. We will see you next week.